Perry, thanks for taking the time to lay out your vision for Michigan for the listeners as we are quickly approaching the primary in August. First question for you. You're well known for being a self-funder. Well, what are the benefits of being a self-funded candidate?
Well, the biggest benefit you have when you're self-funded is that you're not sitting there beholding to these special interest groups, because you have situations that are a little bizarre. The politicians of today spend their time trying to get people to donate money to them so they can run ads. And what happens is they run these ads, they then get elected, they really have very limited experience in what they're doing, and they then have to make these decisions as to what to do, and they're going to be very much influenced by certain people that donated a lot of money to them. For example, we have these data centers. The data centers obviously are a topic of discussion all over the entire state, without exception. And because of the data centers, the demand for electricity, that is consumers' power, DTE, has gone through the roof. So as a result, because of the law of supply and demand, the prices have gone up. They not only have gone up once, first they had an increase of around 8%, and now they want another increase. So what happens is that we are paying for these data centers, but you have these power companies and the people building the data centers donating money to the candidates. Like John James, for example, got $107,000 from people building the data centers, $39,000 from people powering the data centers. Now, when you have a situation like that, they obviously look at it as an investment in the candidate so that the candidate will do their bidding. We can't very well be in a position, if we're going to have the best possible roads, for example, of having people donate to us in large chunks and then expecting to have special consideration when we give out the contracts to do the roads. We actually campaigned on fix the damn roads, didn't we? And are the roads any better? I don't think so. So when you finance it yourself, you are not beholding to anyone. Now, my entire skill set has been developed over the last 40 years. Let's face it, I've spent my entire life bringing quality and efficiency to companies. I brought quality and efficiency to Navy, DOD, and over 60,000 companies. That is what I do. That is what my companies do. And I want to take that skill set and bring quality and efficiency to our state. Now, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that if I am influenced by these decisions because people have donated this huge chunk to me. In fact, I think in one case, I think John James has one PAC donating $5 million. So when you have things like that happening, it's a problem, and we can't have that. Now, I know that, in my opinion, we need a moratorium on data centers because of the fact that we have a problem that we haven't really assessed. There are no OSHA requirements when you build them. They're the only thing in the world here that doesn't have OSHA requirements. We know that the sound waves from these data centers damage babies. We know that we may have carcinogenic impacts from these data centers, but none of that has been analyzed. We don't even know if we're going to need these data centers in 6 or 7 years because AI is making such inroads. And you have to understand that we make inroads all the time when it comes to IT. In fact, the phone that I have now is more powerful than the computer we used to send Apollo to the moon. So understand all of these things are happening. And what's going to happen when we have all these data centers out there and we don't need them? It's just an eyesore. So those are the kind of things that we have to evaluate. That is why Kristen Megan Kelly has been championing the cause, and that's one of the reasons she endorsed me. Then you have situations where you have special interests that want different things to happen. I think you have Consumers Power, or DTE, one of the power companies, is actually spending $300,000 to go and fight against one of our representatives. That's a serious problem because they are now attacking this person because this person is against data centers. So Jocelyn Benson's husband is a promoter of data centers. We have 70 data centers now, and his commission on these data centers is around $70 million. That's big money. Look at what happened just in the idea of fraud in our own government. We had somebody who donated $300,000 to our governor, and suddenly we find out they got $20 million. It's a pretty good return. Look at what was going on in Minnesota. We found $9 billion of fraud. $9 billion. That's a state that is about half of our size. Now, if we had that kind of situation going on here in Michigan, it'd be up to $18 billion. Heck, we only collect $13.5 billion in income tax. So when you take a look at what's going on in our state, we have to have a realization that if we are going to go and make our state as great as it can be, we can't have people catering to special interest groups. They have to cater to the people of our state. And that's where I come in. I'm going to do that because I'm funding my own campaign. I want my kids to stay in this state. I want all of our kids to stay in this state. I have two 17-year-olds, a 22-year-old, and when you have a state that is not progressing, you have our kids moving out. I want the people to think of how many of their kids and grandkids are no longer part of the state. We currently have a population of 10.1 million. If we had grown at the rate of a typical state in our country, we'd have 14.5 million people. There was a time we had 19 congressmen. Now we have 13, just because on a relative basis, we are that much smaller. And we could ignite our state. If we go and use my mega audit, my Michigan Efficiency Government Audit, to go and lean our government, we will then be in a position where we save money. We save money year after year. And the beauty is, if I save money, I can eliminate the state income tax. I don't even need Congress for that. Because with a stroke of the pen, by executive order, I could eliminate 3 of our taxes at will. I could eliminate sales tax and suspend it. I can suspend the gas tax, and I can suspend the income tax. Now, I can't suspend the property tax. Anything with that would require a constitutional amendment. But the other 3, I have the power to suspend. And I don't even need Congress to do that. Now, I may have to sell them after a period of time, but if I'm cutting the budgets and we're improving things, it's amazing what can happen. Let's take a look at education, for example. In education, one of our major objectives has to be to improve the quality of education here in the state, because we've done a pitiful job. There was a time when we were number 3 in the country in SAT scores, and now we're near the bottom. But let's take a look at 4th grade reading. In 4th grade reading, we had a goal. In fact, Gretchen Whitmer said that when she gets into office, she's going to really have an impact on the reading of 4th graders and under. And she allocated $1 billion every year, literally $1 billion a year, to the tune of already of about $8 billion. The goal, let's get reading at a better level for the 4th graders. And boy, is that a great objective. That's a perfect objective. We want that. It's one of my major objectives. But what happened? That $1 billion a year was not well spent because she did not analyze what needed to be done in order to improve reading. In fact, we went from 26th in the country down to 44th in the country. We got worse. And why did we get worse? Because she eliminated phonics. Now, that is a sin. Because if you're going to learn to read, the 2 things that you have to have, one, you have to know what those letters sound like, and you have to have vocabulary. And those 2 things married together allow us to teach our kids to read. In fact, the thing that we need to do is to recognize we should start phonics at a very early age. I think we need to start the education program when our kids are 1. I had them play the letter factory for my kids when they were 1 year old. Now, that's every letter makes a sound. The A says ah, the B says ba. Everybody has computers now. We now are in this age, and it's virtually no cost for us to have a program to start educating our kids at the age of 1 and 2 on phonics, just by playing the letter factory. And it's amazing what we can do if we use common sense. Now, my mega audit is a very simple concept. Michigan Efficiency Government Audit is what I do in business every day. We go in and we find out what are our weaknesses. What's the low-hanging fruit? Where can we become more efficient and deliver better quality? That is the kind of thing that we need to look at throughout our entire government. So in our state of Michigan, we have an excellent opportunity, and we have to recognize when people say that this can't be done, that's a total defeatist attitude. And that is not the way that America became great. We know for a fact that we have done it in businesses, and I've done it with the Navy, and I've done it with DOD. And it doesn't matter because you have a civilian workforce. The civilian workforce is there administration after administration, and it operates just like a regular workforce at any major large company. Whether you went to ExxonMobil, General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, any of these companies, they basically have people that work there, and you can't just fire them. You have to follow certain rules, but you can become significantly more efficient, and that's what we're going to do. We started out with a budget of $55.6 billion, or $56.5 billion. If we had gone up at the rate of inflation, we'd already be at a point where we could eliminate the state income tax. But we didn't do that. We expanded beyond your wildest dreams, and we are spending money left and right. For example, we spent about $1 billion to try to increase the speed of the Amtrak train by 10%, and we didn't even succeed. And then we go and we say, okay, we're going to create jobs. So we send money to the Michigan Economic Club, and that MEDC did get money. They said they're going to create, I think it was 25,752 jobs. In fact, they did a study to determine how many jobs they were going to create and did a study to determine how effective their studies were. Now, we throw away this money. We come up with this nutty number, and out of that goal of 25,752, they created a grand total of 602 jobs for their $1.8 billion. That's $3 million per job created. And how stupid can you be? John James Group, for example, said they were going to create 106 jobs. And for that, they got $2 million. They did not create any jobs. In fact, they got rid of 32. But they didn't have to refund any money, and neither does anyone else, because we have no clawback. Another way of wasting our money. So when you have money wasted in all these ways, we're just wasting other people's money, and it's not right, because our citizens of this state, our residents, deserve a break. Think of this. We actually gave bonus plans for illegals to come to the state because we help supplement their housing. Now, some of the stuff we do just doesn't make sense. We can't give people who are legal more than we would give people of this state. So these kinds of things are just completely nutty. And because I have the experience and background of going into organizations of all sizes, leading those organizations, I can do that with our state government, and we can once again have a great life in Michigan and cause people to come here. Every single state in the union that eliminated the income tax, every state without exception, ignited that economy. There has never been an exception. You look at Florida, it's booming. You look at Texas, it's booming. In fact, one of the latest, Tennessee, it was just like Michigan, losing population year after year. And what happened? They eliminate the income tax. Suddenly, they're on fire. If you've seen Nashville lately, it is unbelievable. It is a booming town, and I wouldn't even recognize it from Nashville 5 years ago. So when I say this, we now have Ford putting their new plant. Where did Ford put their new plant? Ford, the company that helped build this state, they put it in Tennessee. We also have laws that are so prohibitive. We have laws that force people to join a union. Well, that's anti-American. Union, fine, but they should have a right to choose whether or not they're joining a union, not be coerced to join. And that is why the right to work law is so important. We have roughly 3 out of 4 companies that immediately discard Michigan as a relocation because of the fact that we do not have the right to work law. And we have to go and make it attractive for businesses to come here. Imagine what happens if we suddenly have people coming here. Take the financial industry in Chicago. They're paying literally a 4.95% state tax every time they sell stock. If they are in a position where they don't have to pay tax, they have a haven of opportunity, which is why they're moving to Florida and Texas. But we eliminate the state income tax, we're just a hop, skip, and a jump away. You will have the people in the financial industry flocking here, and we will suddenly have another entire group of people coming here to start businesses. That causes an increase in our economy. We get more sales tax. We get more gas tax. We have people spending more money. It attracts more people, and it gives our kids a reason to stay here, because I want our children to stay in this state.
Perry, you hit on so many of these things that I wanted to ask you about, so I appreciate you bringing up many of these topics. Just the final few minutes that we have, let's have a conversation about something very timely and topical here for the entire state of Michigan. Really, today is the first day for at least northern Michigan that the air quality has been back down to a good level. First time in a little bit over a week. If you're elected governor, what are you going to do to ensure this doesn't happen again, working with federal officials and the Canadians?
Well, we can't let Canada do this. If I were governor, there is no way I would allow that. They have to pay for the damage. Look at the damages that were done to the business, the damages done to the people and the health of the people of this state. It's not right. And we have all sorts of opportunities. We have the right to close the bridge. We have the right to charge fees when people are bringing things to the state. We can do all sorts of things in order to enforce that, because I would not be standing by and letting this happen. In fact, if I were a congressperson, I would be on this case and would have been on this case a long time ago, because I'm not going to let another state, nation. Maybe it should be another state, but another nation just unilaterally cause all this damage because they can't take care of their forests. And part of the reason is they have all these crazy laws that put them in a position where they don't do what they should do. And that really creates all this damage. They are talking about laws because they want to reduce carbon. Well, think of the amount of carbon that is put into our air because of these forest fires. And think of the damage that's been done. This is not something that's acceptable in any way.
We are speaking with Perry Johnson, Republican candidate for governor. You can follow him over on X at PJ Quality Guru, and his website is perryjohnson.com. Perry, thank you so much for the time. I really do appreciate it.
And watch the debates.
You can watch those debates on Perry's website, perryjohnson.com/debates.